Hello friends, it's Tori here again, and I am back with another really fun art journaling tutorial. Today I'm actually going to only be using just less than a handful of supplies here. I'm going to show you guys how you can use Tombows as like the Tombow Dual Brush Pens as watercolors essentially. I know this has been done lots, but I don't know if there's too many people using them in art journals, so I thought it would be fun to share with you guys. So this is a traveler's notebook size art journal that I'm working in. You've probably seen it on my channel here before. I just get them from Michael's. There's the cheap Recollections brand ones. I think they're like $6 for a pack of 3 or $6 a piece, sorry. I get these ones are the sketch ones, so they come with thicker paper and they're not lined, and they seem to hold up pretty well to art journaling. So what I'm doing first is I am coating my entire pages with gesso. Now this is because one, I don't want anything to bleed. So putting gesso on your paper, creates a sealed surface so that any markers or wet media I put on there won't leak or bleed through to the back side of my page. So won't ruin any other spreads and won't ruin any potential future spreads. The other side of it is that this sketch paper doesn't work as well as watercolor paper, and it won't behave the same way with the Tombows. I don't want the ink or the pigment and stuff from the pens to be immediately absorbed by the paper as soon as I touch it on there. I want them to have that flexibility to play with it like you would with watercolors. And so gesso is the best way to do this in any kind of sketchbook or altered book or anything you're using that is not watercolor paper. Watercolor paper itself is really thick and really heavy, and it plays really well with watercolors. It helps, lets things flow, and water absorbs differently than if you use sketch or copy paper. So I've done that. I let it dry, or I heat dried it. And now I'm using just a pencil to draw in sort of like a kind of like fern leaf shape. I don't know what I was doing. You guys literally are watching this as I'm figuring it out as I'm doing it. I had the idea in my head, and this is the first shot at it. So here I'm using, these are the Tombow Dual Brush Pens. And the pink and purples that I'm using here are the 665, 605, 725, and 755. I'll link everything in the description box below so you guys can get a handle on them. I apologize if these come in sets. I don't know, because I actually got my markers from my mom. She bought a whole whack of them and then didn't like them. Well, not didn't like them, but she was going to hand letter and then didn't care for it, and so then I inherited them. So I have no idea what packages these come from or what sets they're from. I know you can buy them individually, so if that's what you want to do, go for it. If they come in packages, I apologize, I don't know which ones they come from. So what I did was I just scribbled a couple of marks on here, and then grabbed a watercolor brush. I think this is a 6 round, and just grabbed a bunch of water on my brush and tried to start blending the marker in. What you'll see here is that I realized that what I should have done first is grab my little plastic plexi thingy here that I use for blending markers and whatever. It's like a plastic palette. You can use anything that's plastic. And done that instead of just drawing straight onto the gessoed paper. This is because even though it's gessoed, I was having a hard time sort of rubbing out the marker from the gesso. Sorry. It was just like, you can't really see it on camera, but in person you could kind of see there was still like a faint marker line where I'd done that initial scribble under all the water, like sort of watery looking marks. And I really didn't like it. I didn't want to be able to see those markers and the marks from it. I wanted it to look like watercolors. So yeah, so don't do what I did at first. Ignore that part. Do this part instead, where you take your marker and draw on a piece of plastic of some kind. You can use like a plastic baggie, plastic wrap, a plastic plate, anything that will sort of make the ink won't stick to and it'll bead off of. Use that, and then use it like you would watercolors. And so you can see here, I like skipped a huge part of this because I didn't think you guys wanted to see me doing this for endless amounts of time. I think it took me about 15-20 minutes to actually do it all because I'm slow and meticulous like that. Not meticulous, just slow. And now I'm just going back in again with a little bit more ink from the marker and some paint to try and cover up those darker spots where you can still see the marker marks. You can see right there where I'm working through it, and a little bit left of it, you can see another mark that I didn't care for. So again, don't do what I did at first, do what I did second. And this is really good if you don't have watercolors, but if you're a planner type or a hand lettering type and you don't have watercolors, you're not sure about them, or if you want a watercolor on the go, this is also a good choice too. You can totally bust out your Tombows and have at her here. And so, because this is on a sealed surface, on the gessoed surface, I chose to do my background first and then fill in my leaves second. This is because I was worried about things touching each other and bleeding, and I figured it would be smarter to do the background first and then do my darker blues and greens second, so that if there isn't a little bit of bleeding or whatever, it's going to be bled into the dark stuff, not into the lighter stuff. Like, you know, if I had a dark green leaf and then tried to paint faint pink around it, I was worried I would accidentally bleed out into the faint pink. So like watercolors, it's really easy to like mess it up. So essentially you start lightest to darkest. That way, you know, you can always add more, but start with your light stuff first. And so now I'm just cleaning off my little thing. You know what this is? Actually, it's a good tip. Is this is one of those self-laminating pouches that you buy, and it's by 3M, I think. And it's supposed to be like you can stick a picture in it or like an ID or something. And I had them for something else, and I needed some little plasticky palette-y thing for using with my Tombows. And so this is a good hack. You can just grab one of those self-laminating pouches and just seal it to itself, and it becomes a little flexible palette to use. And so now I'm using a whole bunch of different greens and blue Tombow pens, and the numbers I'm using are 195, 245, 296, 249, 373, and 528. Again, I'll have those all linked below. I'm probably just going to link to the individual pens because, again, I don't know what sets they come from. So anyways, I wanted more of I didn't want really green leaves. I wanted more of like turquoisey teal leaves. So that's why there's actually quite a bit of blue in these. You'll see as I skip forward to when I'm almost done here that I did green, but I really wanted more of a teal or like a turquoise leaf than I did a really true green leaf. I felt like it would match the background a little bit better. So again, I'm just using, this is like still pretty self-explanatory. I don't feel like I need to like give you the step-by-step of everything I'm doing. I'm just painting in these leaves and just like mucking around the colors to try and get like a good variety or, you know, mix of colors without muddying it up too much. I kind of muddied up a few of them. They kind of all ended up the same color at some point. But that's because I probably overworked it. So it's another blue I grabbed. Oh, I don't know which one that is. I'll have it linked below. It's kind of like a darker royal blue. I wanted like a darker blue to help contrast some of the lighter blues in there. Because some of these greens, once you mix them with the blues, they get, they kind of basically are the same color. When you mix like, you know, like a light blue and a light green, you kind of basically get turquoise. So yeah, I just filled in all my leaves, just slowly worked my way through. This was really good to do when I was listening to a podcast, actually. It's one of those things where it's simple enough that you don't have to concentrate too much. So if you're trying to like watch a show or listen to a podcast or like something like that, it's actually like a good kind of meditative thing to do with that. I find that if I'm like too intense with my art journaling, like thinking about my art too much, I actually can't listen to anything except music. But I know there's lots of people who are like podcast, Netflix junkies out there who like to make and listen at the same time. So now this is all done. I'm just drying it off. I think I used my heat gun. Where did I go? Yes, my heat gun just to dry it because I'm impatient. And yeah, so, and the other thing too is that I actually originally started this, I was going to draw with my pen first. But the Tombow, I think it's food pens, I couldn't guarantee it was going to be waterproof, that if I painted over it, that it was going to not smear. So I just thought better safe than sorry to paint all the color first and then draw over top. So this is the, I'm probably saying it wrong, I'm just going to call them the food pens because I think everybody calls them that. It's easier. I'll have those linked below. I actually prefer the soft tip ones than the hard tip. The hard tip is really good if you're learning like calligraphy and hand lettering and stuff, but I really like the flexibility of the soft tip. So that's what I'm using here. It's a brand new one. I had to dig one out of my stash. Oh, I'm sorry. That is my head in the way. I am someone who likes to work with my face about 6 inches from my paper, typically. So when you see these videos, I'm showing restraint by keeping my head upright. My husband always makes fun of me because I look like a little old lady, like hunched over my desk when I work. It's probably terrible for my back. And so I'm just outlining all the leaves here. I super sped this up so you guys didn't have to watch me do it forever. And I actually chose to use this pen because I like the flexible tip so that you can't, I guess it doesn't show up as quite as well on camera, but I liked that you drew your line and then there was sort of like a variation in the line thickness. I didn't want all the lines to be exactly the same thickness. I didn't want it to look like a vector or anything like that. I wanted to have that sort of hand-drawn feel that if you're using a pen that has the ability to change thicknesses, if you will. And I know some people really hate creases on their pages, and I straight up will like ignore them. I think I took a picture that you'll see at the end of the video where you can straight up see that like I didn't try to fold my crease over or like in the center line there and try to like paint it. Like if it looks good from the top down, then I am a-okay if there's like white spots on the side of my pages, just because I'm worried about things bleeding and I honestly can't be bothered, is the real truth. But I also like that it makes sure I won't bleed through to any other pages. And so yeah, I'm just doodling these last little bits in here. This page isn't super complicated, only because I just wanted to more focus on the technique of using the watercolor Tombow situation. You could totally do this and then fill in the background with more doodles. You could, Tombows, because they're like a water-based ink, you could totally splash water on here and then soak it up and have like a negative paint splatter effect. You could do whatever you wanted. I'm actually going to go back over these leaves with some pencil crayons here and just use a few more shades of blues and greens to just add some more variety to it. I like the look, I like the look of like this look of like watercolors with pencil crayons layered on top. So this is, like I said, this isn't like super detailed or anything like that. I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit more color where I feel like it needs to be. Tombow has like a few different kinds of pencil crayons on their site. I'm going to link a few below in the description box. They're amazing. I just didn't have any on hand, so I just used something else in the meantime. But yeah, as you can see, this kind of brings the leaves to life a little bit more when you have the watercolored marker background with the pencil crayons later on top. And so then I just grabbed my brush pen here, not the markers, the calligraphy pen, and then just added a little bit of hand lettering. If you know me, if you follow my channel, you know that I am not a hand letterer. I will not claim to be one. This is my own font or like lettering that I've come up with that I made up because I could never get the hang of doing brush calligraphy. So I made up my own crazy wacky one so that I didn't have to try and practice, basically. So you do you and make whatever lettering you want. Again, the soft tip is great for this because you get that nice thick downstroke. So why I also like it. And so yeah, this is the whole art journal spread. Again, it's super easy. It's really fun to do. I'm going to post a couple of pictures here at the end here. And if you guys want to make sure that you're following my channel for more art journaling tutorials, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified. You can also find me on Instagram at foxandhazel and my website, foxandhazel.com. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.